for Lorraine's column in the paper next week, in her Latino empowerment column, where she will revive her 21 questions section. And her first 21 question subject is our guest today. And I will let you introduce our guest.
Sure. Coming on, we have Judge Ada Medina. Judge Ada Medina was appointed and sworn in on January 11th by Mayor Spano to fill in the seat of our friend, Judge Quiñones, who went on to the Supreme Court. And, well, she's here with us today. Let's bring her on.
Hello, Judge. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Your Honor.
Hello. Hi. Hello to both of you. Nice to meet you.
One of the
AJ,
things
I don't think we've met.
No, one of the things I have been saying lately, and I told Lorraine this the other day, Yonkers, we complain about a lot of times when in criminal justice reform and criminal, all of that stuff. We say we want the courts, the judges to look more like the city. And Yonkers may be one of the most, I don't want to say progressive. Diverse. I didn't want to say, one of the most diverse city court, because if I'm not mistaken, so right now, before, most of the time it was just a whole bunch of white men, just a whole bunch of men. Now, then we had our first Latina and what's Carmen's daughter?
Judge Goldberg.
Elena Goldberg.
Elena, and then last year we had two African American women in Varys Shako and Karen Bess. And now we have Ada Medina. So we actually have two Latinas and two African American women on the city court. How many judges are there total in Yonkers City Court?
There are seven.
And
four of them. We also have judge-in-law. Don't forget, we have African American judge-in-law.
Right. Yes.
So there are 5 persons of color out of 7 on the bench right now.
Right.
Which is an amazing and historic time.
Right. And 4 of them are women of color. So Yonkers, for everything people have to say about Yonkers is a little more diverse than the rest of the whole county, because on the city council, you now have 4 women of color, and they're the majority on the city council.
Yeah.
We're not getting this like nowhere else in Westchester. Like in Mount Vernon, you would expect a lot of the judges to be black because it's mostly a black-run city. But you know what I'm saying? So other than that, this is probably one of the most diverse city courts right now, and diverse city councils right now. So I have to give props to the city of Yonkers. I just wanted to say that.
Mm-hmm. And let me just add that the judge is multicultural because her mom is Ecuadorian, her father's Puerto Rican, and her stepfather is of Arabic descent. So she's got.
He's checking all kinds of boxes, huh?
I got it all.
Yeah, he's checking all kinds of boxes. Yes. So I'm gonna let Lorraine kick it off.
Oh, okay. I got like about 15 questions. Some of these, Judge, are some of the questions from the 21 questions, so you'll be familiar with them.
Okay.
First, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Where your family's from.
Sure. Well, like you said, my mom is Ecuadorian. My biological father is Puerto Rican, and I grew up. I always say I'm Ecuadorian Puerto Rican with a side of Jordanian. My stepdad came into my life when I was a very, very young baby. My parents have been together more than 40 years. So, that's very much a part of my culture. I grew up here in Yonkers, was born here at St. John's Hospital, attended all Yonkers public schools throughout my K through 12 career, and then went to school in Boston. I went to school for 7 years in Boston. I went to Northeastern University, so college and law school up there, and then came back to Yonkers and started working here right out of law school for the Legal Aid Society.
What motivated you to become an attorney?
So when I was growing up, when I was a little girl, as you, I'm sure both know, because I think we're all kind of in the same age range, the crack epidemic really hit Yonkers really hard.
Same age range. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Listen, I don't know how y'all are, but I think we're around the same age range. So I'll just put us all together, and so the crack epidemic really hit Yonkers, like it did a lot of places, very hard. in the 80s. And, I saw a lot of neighbors, including my family and friends, get hit, with drug addiction, get arrested. I wound up in court a lot with my mother. Even though my mother speaks English, she always took me along. I was a little translator for the family. And so I was always taken along to kind of explain what was happening. And, I just saw the court system up close. And then I also, when I went to Gorton, I got into the pre-law magnet, and I was able to see things from a different perspective because I actually shadowed with our former Chief Judge Doran, who passed back in November. Yes, absolutely. He was amazing. He was amazing. So I interned with him for a little bit. And so just seeing the court system from that, those two different perspectives, I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a lawyer, and specifically a public defender. That was really like what I wanted to do, is I wanted to be a public defender at the Legal Aid Society. So, when I got the job there, that was my dream job, because that's exactly what I went to law school for.
All right. Now, we understand, because we've interviewed so many judges, and Jen Elkers is a really good friend of mine, and she kind of has guided us on what we can ask and what we can't ask. And so I know that there's some things that we cannot ask you as a sitting judge. So we're very aware of that, and we'll respect that.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Now, let's talk about Yonkers. Let's specifically talk about Nodine Hill.
Okay.
Were you raised around Nodine Hill?
Yeah, I was raised on Maple Street.
I used to live on 93 Maple.
93? You lived on 93? When did you live on 93? That's where I lived.
Really? When I was 4 years old and I had the chicken pox. I still remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was before we moved in then. Probably. I must have been.
It burnt down. It burnt down because back in the days there was a lot of fires going on, and it burnt down. So you must have went in after it got renovated.
Did. We moved in because I think 93 was taller. So when we moved in, it was only 2 floors. And I had heard that before we moved in, there had been higher floors that in the fire got burned down and they never rebuilt.
Okay.
So, yes.
So look at this. We got something in common.
I didn't even know that. Look at that.
There you go. Okay, now Nodine Hill is very dear to my heart. The whole Southwest Yonkers is very dear to my heart. I was born and raised in Southwest Yonkers. I was born in St. Joseph, raised in Southwest Yonkers. My mother was one of those mothers that moved from place to place like every year. So I went to probably every public school, and I lived in practically every neighborhood. And my mother was one of those OGs where she had to live in a neighborhood where there was always action.
Okay.
So I kind of lived in a very dysfunctional time in my life growing up. Now, how was it growing up for you on Nodine Hill?
You know what? It was great. I mean, growing up, it definitely changed. You definitely saw a lot of change. When I was very little, it was very safe, very community. Everyone kind of looked out for each other. As I said, when the crack epidemic hit, that's where you saw kind of the shift.
Yes.
And crime increasing. People getting addicted to drugs, people selling drugs. I mean, I knew who the drug dealers were. You know what I mean? Like, you knew who they were. You knew where they hung out. You know their spots. Yes. Cars started being stolen and broken into. But I will say that for the most part, there was a certain level of respect given to, everyone that lived there, like in the sense that no one was going to rob you, or at least you didn't feel like you were going to be robbed or anything like that. But you definitely knew that there was crime happening on the periphery, right? And kind of like the little outskirts and stuff like that. But I felt generally pretty safe, and I have an older brother who was pretty well known on the streets, so no one kind of messed with me, because they're like, oh, that's so and so's sister. But it was definitely a different change. And then when I came home from college, it definitely, you could tell like the difference. And ethnically, things changed also. Like there was a huge shift, I would say. When I was a little girl, like very little, I would say they were more like Italian, Portuguese, Polish, like,
a lot of Portuguese.
Right? There was a lot of Portuguese. And then it started changing. There was a lot more Puerto Ricans, there was a lot of Arabs on our street, a lot.
Yes.
That's how my parents actually met. When my mom moved into 93, she met my dad because he lived next door to us with his brother and family. And then there was like up the street, there were a lot of other Jordanians that lived up the street.
Yes.
And
They're still on.
so it became very diverse over time. And I think now it's pretty diverse. Like there's a little bit of everything in that area. You can find everyone there.
I mean, it's very dear and close to my heart because no matter what, wherever I went, like you said, people took care of you and they respected you because you lived in the neighborhood. You was part of the neighborhood. So, if you was coming down the street and there was something going on, they would say, hold on, let her pass by and stuff like that. There was always a lot of respect. I mean, unfortunately, people are the product of the environment, and some people went one way, some people went another way. But I've seen so many people that have grown up in on that hill that have been very successful, yourself included.
Yes, no, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, do you have any questions before I go on?
Okay, there we go. My mic. No, I'm just working the channels. I just wanted to say, shout out to Maddie Cheatham and John Morrison who are watching on the People Before Politics radio page. Lorraine, you can share it to your page so everybody can see it. And I think I just shared it to your Latino empowerment page. That's what I'm doing all that kind of stuff.
And someone from your camp, George, is going to share it from my page.
Right. Okay. So we just want as many people to see it as possible. And then it gets archived later. For those who don't know, who's just watching the first time, if you miss it, it'll be archived later on blackwestchester.com, and you can watch all our previous shows there. So this is episode 332. I forgot to say that in the beginning. Well, episode 332. And we have back again the lovely Lorraine Lopez as our co-host and our guests. We are celebrating Women of Westchester for Women Herstory Month. And our guest today is Yonkers City Court Judge Ada Medina. Now, I do want to ask a question. So you were appointed to fill the position when the other judge moved on. So you fill the rest of that term and then you run, or you run at the end of the year? How does that work? What's that?
So when you get appointed, you're only appointed through the ends of the year. So my appointment ends December 31st of this year. So I have to run in order to win an actual 10-year term, which is how long the terms are for a judge. So I am running in the November election, and hopefully we'll be ultimately successful. I think we will be. So.
I know you will be. Definitely gonna be. I
don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched.
Well, what needs to happen is you're running on a post, right, Judge?
So far, yes. So
far.
Okay.
What we need to do is what we need to do, we need to bring out more people to vote. Because just because somebody is running on a post does not mean you get to stay home and not do and not go out and vote. It's very important for the people to come out and vote, because the higher the numbers, the better it is as well. And Absolutely. We need to everyone. I mean, especially in Southwest Yonkers. I mean, this is for the history books. Mm-hmm. This is for the history.
We need to show our power in voting, right?
Like yes, we do.
The thing is we can't sit back and be complacent. We have to show our power, and the way we show our power is by getting out there and voting and showing that we have a voice, all of us, not just one person or not just one group.
Now, I read something on Facebook, and I want to say that I read it on Facebook. I have not independently checked it out myself, but after the census, the Latino population in Yonkers grew, right? Isn't Latinos
Yonkers, yes. 42%.
Right. And that makes y'all the largest group. Is it the largest group in Yonkers? Right.
Yes, I believe so. I believe Latinos are the largest single group of people in Yonkers. Right. Yes.
And the ones that need the most help. So when you got appointed, I'm curious. What did it feel like to take that oath?
Oh my gosh, it was surreal, honestly. Like I felt like I was in a dream almost. Like I honestly, in the moment, I couldn't even believe it was happening, and I couldn't even believe that everyone was there to watch. Because I didn't expect it. It was so, it was a very quick, from when the mayor told me until when we swore in was less than 24 hours. So it was amazing how many people came out to see the swearing in, and I was like, wow, like I thought there were other people getting sworn in. I was like, everyone's here for me, like just me, that's it. So it was a dream. It was really a dream. It was such a whirlwind. And honestly, I'm now like 2 months in, and now is when I'm starting to feel like very comfortable in what I'm doing. But initially it felt like a whirlwind.
Surreal.
That's cool. It's amazing. Now we also have we're back somewhat to normal as far as the courts. COVID, a lot of things had to be virtual and stuff. Are the Yonkers courts fully back to normal? They're actually having in-person court.
I'm gonna say we're about 95% in terms of like being in person. The 5% that we are doing virtually is conferences. They're doing criminal case conferences, virtually. But everything else is in person. I think we're almost back to full capacity. We had been for a while, for a few months, limited in terms of how many cases could go on in each calendar, because we do have several parts. We have criminal, small claims, traffic, landlord tenant, commercial claims, city codes. So there's a number of different types of calendars that we run. And so they were limiting them because they want to limit how many people came into the courthouse. And I think we're starting to get back to normal numbers.
That's great. That's great. Lorraine, you have to
hold on a second. Yeah, where are you? Are you in criminal court? Are you what court are you in?
I can't sit in criminal court currently because of being a supervisor and a staff attorney at Legal Aid for almost 20 years. I've handled like literally thousands and thousands of cases, and I supervise thousands of cases. So it would be inefficient for me to sit right now because I would have to recuse myself. There's a 2-year period where I'd have to recuse myself from any client that I supervised or handled myself. So I'm totally in civil court. I'm in small claims, landlord tenant, traffic, all of that stuff, which is honestly really fascinating and awesome. It's like a challenge for me because it's something new that I'm learning, and I'm really enjoying it. I really am.
That leads to what I was going to ask you. We try to educate people as much as possible. Some people don't know what's the difference between the city court of like city courts and like the county court. There's a difference. Y'all handle different things. So can you explain that?
Yeah, for sure. So in the city court, we're handling more of like your day-to-day issues that occur. So in criminal court, it would be the misdemeanors and the violations. The felonies are arraigned in our city court, but they do not stay there. They have to be transferred to county court because the ultimate resolution or trial, anything that happens on a felony, has to happen in county court. When it comes to landlord tenant, it's purely city court that handles landlord tenant. That doesn't happen in county court. Same thing with traffic court. That's only a city court responsibility. City codes, same thing. Small claims are only handled by the city court, and that's all civil claims that are up to $5,000. So there's a cap. So if you wanted to sue someone for more than $5,000, you'd have to go to county court or the Supreme Court. So they handle like higher money civil judgments. They handle matrimonial, surrogates quarreling when someone dies and you have to like contest a will. They handle all of that type of stuff. And family court also is separate from us. We don't handle that either.
All right. Okay. So anything over 5,000, small claims court goes to Westchester County.
Yes, has to go to Westchester County if it's above 5,000.
What are some of your goals as a newly appointed judge?
What are some of my goals? That's a good question. Well, I would say, the obvious, which I think most judges would say is, I want to be fair. I want to be impartial. I want to be able to, make sure that all of the litigants that come before me feel like they've had their day in court, like they've been heard, they've been respected. I want them to walk out feeling like, even if they didn't agree, judge listened to me. She heard what I had to say, and, I don't agree with her, but I respect her decision. That's ultimately my goal for every litigant. You never want a litigant to walk out and feel like, that judge made up her mind. She already, was going to do this, or I've heard that judge always rules that way. I wouldn't want someone to feel that way coming into my courtroom. I want them to feel like they were treated. Their case was special, because every case is different. Every case is unique. As a judge, I can't go into a case thinking I know how I'm going to rule, because I don't, and I shouldn't, because every case is unique. I need to listen to the facts of each case and make my decision based on what's in front of me. So, those are my ultimate goals. Other kind of dreamlike goals is I would like to see at some point a mental health court come into our court, because we have a drug court currently, which handles anyone that's eligible. Drug treatment, essentially, when they have eligible crimes. I would like to see the same thing for mental health, because I think that mental health is a huge problem that's going on. I think COVID really brought it out to the forefront, but it was always there. It was always there. I just think that COVID really showed how important mental health is, and the connection between mental health and the criminal justice system is very, very close. So I would love to see us have that. We have a mental health court in county court, but that's only for felony cases. And I think really what's important is on misdemeanors to have that kind of supervision, to have that kind of opportunity where we're dealing with someone right when things start happening, not after they've committed a more serious crime. I think could really be impactful for our community.
I think that's very important. And I know, in Mount Vernon, I know, I haven't been paying attention to the Yonkers court. I know in Mount Vernon, they were doing really good things with the drug court. Like, I know the drug court was very, very helpful on a lot. And I think I never thought about that, but what you just said, a mental health court is definitely necessary. Because one, we're going to do more shows on mental health. We don't deal with mental health in our communities, in communities of color. We don't like to address it. It's like we don't want to talk about it, but it does exist, and and there's a lot of things come from that. You know what I'm saying? And
yes.
I would definitely love to see. I love that idea.
So if you had to choose between incarceration or treatment, what would be?
Well, I mean, that would always depend on the case. It would always depend on the situation, because it's hard to say that, because it depends on someone's level of situation in terms of their mental health or their drug addiction, as well as their record, because we, as judges, we have to balance community safety along with, addressing the issue, right? Like, sometimes if it's someone's first offense and you can really link that back to either a drug issue or a mental health issue, that may be the way to go, right? But it also depends on, what is the crime about and what happened. You really have to balance. There's a big balancing that has to happen in order for it to be fair.
Now, I don't know if you can speak to this, and it's currently in the news, and I'm talking about overall, maybe not, in your person. There's been a lot of talk about the bail reform. We needed bail reform. We needed some form of bail reform. And I always tell our people, be careful what you ask for, because we asked for it and we got it. Now we need to reform the reform. So I know one of the things was that the complaint from law enforcement is that they took it out of the judge's hands whether to have cash bail in the case or not, and that we should go back. The judge should make the decisions. I know you can't speak specifically to any particular case, but can you speak a little bit to that, if you can?
Sure. Yeah. No. Sure. For sure. I mean, leading up to bail reform, there were a lot of studies conducted on how bail was set in New York before they even talked about, how to go about these reforms, right? And the whole purpose was they wanted to make sure that people who were indigent, poor people, were not simply locked up because they couldn't afford to pay cash bail, right? Because that is fundamentally unfair. Because at the outset, our principle in criminal justice is you are innocent right? You're innocent until you're proven guilty.
Supposed to be.
So, right. That's the crux in our Constitution. That is 100% our rights, right?
Sometimes Lady Liberty, it seems like she peeks under the blindfold, and
well,
but yeah.
so that sort of comes into play, right? So when you go about with the mentality that we are really going to truly believe that you are innocent until proven guilty, the purpose of bail is to ensure that someone comes to court. It is not supposed to be punitive. It's not supposed to be pre-guilt punishment, right? It's not supposed to be about that. So, when all those things were looked at and the legislator decided, okay, we're going to say for these category of crimes that judges don't have discretion. They have to release the person, because that's what this category of crime should be, that you should be presumptively released no matter what, unless, right, there are certain exceptions to those things, including if someone's on parole, if someone's on probation, if someone has multiple felony convictions, if they're charged with a felony. Like, there's certain things that trigger that bail is eligible to be set, and judges are using that. Prosecutors are using that. Prosecutors also have other tools, because I've heard, there's been a lot of talk about judges not having enough discretion, but there is discretion built in that sometimes they don't talk about, which is that the prosecutor can ask for what's called a CPL 530 hearing, Criminal Procedure Law 530. They are allowed, if someone continuously commits crimes, if they're first arrested, they're let out, right? If they continue to commit crimes, whether it's a property crime, a crime against the person, another felony while they're on a felony, they can ask for this hearing and present evidence to the judge and say, Judge, this person shouldn't be out. Bail should be set. And if the judge feels that the evidence that they presented is sufficient, they can set cash bail and they can remand the person and put them in jail. So there are tools available that prosecutors can use and are using. I've seen them use it here in Yonkers. I can't speak for anywhere else, but they're definitely using them when they feel that it's appropriate.
Right. We have a question from the audience. John Morrison asks, what advice would you give a young person whose goal it is to become a judge?
Study hard. They have to stay in school. They have to, really study hard. They have to love to read, because when you go to law school, all we do is read. I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 13. And, when I first went to law school, my first 2 months was really eye-opening, because it was so different than college that I actually almost dropped out. Believe it or not, I actually almost dropped out because it was just so difficult, so different than college. And I had been an honor student my entire life. I had a major, 3 minors. I was the president of my student organization in college. I got to law school and I felt like an idiot, because when you go to law school, you are among the smartest people that you will ever be around, because it's really difficult to get into law school. So you have to really have a lot of dedication. You have to be willing to, study and go outside your comfort zone in order to, achieve that. Not every judge has to be a lawyer, but most of them do. Here in New York, all of the city court judges have to be lawyers before they can be judges. Some towns and villages, you don't. It's not a requirement. But if they want to be a city court judge or a Supreme Court judge, they've got to stay in school. They've got to do well.
Right.
In your new position as city court judge, are you going to be a mentor to young ladies?
I would love to be a mentor, and that's actually something I'm really passionate about. I'm actually going to go speak at Gorton High School on March 29th. Gorton is my alma mater. That's where I graduated from in '94. I'm going to go speak there. I'm totally willing to be a mentor. I have to figure out, which organizations might be the best ones to connect with to kind of bring me mentors, but I'm definitely willing to be a mentor.
Speaking of organizations, what organizations have you been affiliated with or are currently affiliated with?
Sure. So I recently I did resign. I was part of the Westchester County Department of Corrections Advisory Board. That's a board that is initiated by George Latimer. And so I was appointed to that board back in 2019. We work with the Department of Corrections to, help them with programming and, policies and things like that.
My
I did have
brother's
to
a sergeant
resign.
up there. I'm sorry. My
Oh,
brother's a
yeah.
sergeant. I got it. Hector, hi. I
And,
gotta
and,
say that. He's my, I'm proud of that.
and Black
No, and
Westchester
you should be.
co-owner Damon Jones is a 32-year veteran up there too.
Okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
I worked with them for a very long time, and but I did have to resign because that's a position that I'm not allowed to keep as a judge. And then currently, I'm also the board chair for the Yonkers YMCA. So I've been the board chair since last March, I want to say, and I had been a member since June. I got appointed during COVID, so June of 2020, I started as a board member there. So that's what I'm currently involved in.
Okay. Okay, this got nothing to do with anything, but I'm just really curious. What do you wear under your robe? I mean,
I
like,
wear.
that's like
Yeah, because you hear all these stories about people not being, having shorts on and all kinds of
Is
other
that
things.
right? No.
Yeah.
Well, I have not seen that. So I'm not alone. So if I usually wear like a dress suit or like a skirt suit under my robe. And then that most of the judges do. Most of the female judges are wearing like skirt or dress suits. And then the men will wear like, regular, pants, suit, tie,
Yeah.
So we wear regular clothes because when we leave the courtroom, we take our robe off. We still gotta walk around the courthouse and walk outside, and we have to look normal.
I'm waiting for somebody to say something different one day.
And TV doesn't help because you see all those TV shows with the TV judge and he gets off, the comedy, he gets off, he got shorts and a t-shirt on, and
Well, ask
like
me in the summer. Maybe it'll be different in the summer. I don't know.
Tell me what your biggest accomplishment is and your biggest regret.
My biggest accomplishment, I guess, would be becoming a judge for sure. Like that's my biggest accomplishment to date. And we'll see if my answer changes in the next few years. But this is a huge accomplishment for me, and I'm definitely reveling it. My biggest regret is probably, it's sort of related to this, I guess. It's not trying to be a judge sooner. I'm pushing. I'm in late 40s. So I kind of wish that I had kind of tried for this a little bit earlier in my career. I think, but I'm not, I'm not a politician, and I'm not really, I'm not gonna say I'm antisocial, but I tend to be introverted socially. I'm a homebody, and I also get very focused on my work. And I was really, as a supervisor, I was just very dedicated to what I was doing, and I wanted to make sure that I did it well because, all of the clients that I represented deserve that. They deserve my full attention. And so I was really focused on that for a very long time. Not that I did it now, it's just that the way that this came about was honestly, I didn't expect to be appointed this year. I really thought I was just putting my foot out there and saying, hi, I want to be a judge someday. And then it just worked out that the mayor chose me. So, obviously I'm thrilled, but it didn't come about the way I thought it would. I thought I would have to be out there for a very long time, and before someone took notice of me.
So the moral of the story is you got to take that first step, even if it's a little step.
Do.
Nothing can happen without that first step. You got to take that first step.
You do. Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that women of color in particular, we suffer from, we tell ourselves no more than other people tell us no. We tend to think that we're not qualified, or we tend to think we need to reach a certain level of achievement before we put ourselves out there for a new job or some new position or an award or something. Yes. Right? Don't we? We totally tend to tell ourselves like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not ready for that, or I'm not qualified enough. And we do that. And I think that that's one of the things, as a woman of color, what I've learned over the last year is don't tell myself no. Let someone else tell me no, right? I will never know if I can get what I want unless I go for it. And so that's the moral of the story for me for the last year, is just go for it, because you never know.
If you wasn't an attorney or now a sitting judge, what would you be? What would your next career choice be?
So I saw some comments about this on the article that was posted, but I really truly think that I probably would have been an accountant. I'm kind of a math nerd. I was a little bit of a math nerd, and my family started having me do their taxes when I was like 13 or something. I don't even remember. I was really young. Yeah, and this was when taxes were done on paper. Like you would hand write them and you would follow the little booklet that they would send you every year.
Right.
And so I started doing my mom's taxes and my grandparents' taxes, and I really loved it. And then I would do my friends. And then when I went to college, it was kind of like a second income. It was like my little side hustle. I would do everyone's taxes. And so I really, I thought maybe I'll be an accountant if I can't be a lawyer, because I kind of like all of that stuff, but it's kind of like nerdy. But it's a good career for anyone that wants to do it. I'm not trying to discourage you. It's a good career. It's a really good, solid career. Yeah.
You do your own taxes now?
I do. I still do my own taxes. Yes.
Speak your appointment. Your appointment when Judge Quiñones went up to the 9th Judicial Court and became a Supreme Court judge. That position stayed empty for a minute. And there was some rumbling about who it's going to be. And then there was so sure it was going to be this guy. And then I was watching it. I was watching it very close. I even made a post. I even put up a post saying, mi gente, like, keep an eye. This is going on right here. And you need to know what's going on because there's an appointment that needs to be made. So when you got appointed, I mean, yo estaba en la gloria. That's all I can say. I was not only myself, but a lot of other Latina women, and not just Latinos, because you have support from a variety of different ethnicities. But I can't express how important it is that you are there. You see, because my granddaughter, I'm gonna introduce her. She's 5, but I'm gonna introduce her to you one day, and she's gonna look up to you, and she's gonna say, "Wow, I met her. She made history, and I met her." And all the little girls out there that go to school, that are that go to court to interpret, that like you did.
Absolutely.
You're gonna be you are a role model. And that resonates real strongly with me, so I personally just want to thank you for you being you, and for accepting the opportunity to sit on the bench.
Yeah, for sure. No, I feel the same as you. I was watching it closely because I didn't know what was happening. I was wondering what was going to happen and who was going to be appointed. And and I agree with you. When I would go to court as a little girl, and it was all men. I mean, I never saw a woman on the bench. I know that there were women on the bench at certain times, but there was never consistently. It was all men, and it was all usually men, Caucasian men. And so I never saw that, so to me, it is important that when any little kid comes in, that they see what diversity we have, not just, men of color, women of color, men and women. I think that is such a beautiful thing, that we have such a diverse bench, and literally our bench reflects our population. It really, really, truly does. And I think that is super important. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And kudos to Mayor Spano. Spano. Like a big applause to him, because he did this. Yes. He did this.
He did. And what I've told him, because I didn't know Mayor Spano, I met him through this process. What I have told him consistently is, I've said, all I keep saying to him is, I want you to be proud of what you've done. And I want to make you proud that you appointed me, because I plan to serve, and I want to be here for a very, very long time. I want to serve our city, and I want him to be proud and say, I did that, and be proud of that.
AJ? Okay, so speaking of the youth, if you had for example, you're going to Gordon and you're going to speak to them, what would you say to the youth that are listening now? What is your
what I really want them, because it frustrates me, Lorraine. I see the youth today, and I recognize that it's a different time. It's a really different time. They're living in social media. They're living on YouTube. They're living with like all this technology, and they are really emphasizing and believe that they're going to be influencers. They're going to be YouTube stars. Kind of like when I was a kid, everyone wanted to be an actor or a singer or an NBA star. That was what everyone aspired to be because they thought like, oh, that's going to give me fame and richness. So now the youth, I feel like all they're focusing on is they want to be social media stars. That's, what, it's great if it happens, but it's like the NBA. It's not going to happen for everyone. And what I really want them to understand is that they still need their education. They still need to get those skills. They need to get life skills, and they need to get education skills so that they can position themselves to actually be able to choose whatever they want to do. If plan A fails, I want them to have plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, right? Because I want them to be able to live on their own, maintain themselves, have a good life, because I always wanted a better life for myself. I grew up on welfare. We were poor. We didn't have like all of the, nice things that people wanted, the nice sneakers, the nice clothes. Like I couldn't have any of that. I started working when I was 15 because I wanted to be able to shop at the Gap, because my parents couldn't take me to the Gap. That was the Gap. Or go to Cross County. Like we didn't shop at Cross County. We went down to 34th Street in Conway, and that's where we would get our clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I relate everything you just said.
Right. So see, I told you we were contemporaries. So, it's like I want them to understand that their education is so important. And it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go to college, because college is not for everyone. But they have to understand that they do have to develop skills, because nowadays, almost every job, they want you to have either a trade or a college degree in order to have like, any of these jobs, any civil service job, which again, civil service jobs, they're underrated in my opinion, but it's a great job. You have good benefits. A lot of times you're in the union, you have a good salary. It's consistent. People have to understand that being a social influencer, a social media star is not for everyone. You've got to be very lucky to wind up a star and to make lots of money being on YouTube, right? So they've got to think practically and think about, how am I going to be able to live my life, be able to support myself, be able to take vacations, be able to buy nice things when I want to, not struggle. And, and not that there's any wrong with living paycheck to paycheck, but I bet you if you ask anyone who's living paycheck to paycheck, they would love to be able to have more open doors and be able to make more money. And I know that parents who have children always want them to have those opportunities available to them. So education to me is the key.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say, it's amazing that it's called social media, because it's making our kids anything but social. They're losing the social skills. We used to go outside and play. We used to do a lot of things. Social media, everybody's home on a computer, and they don't have the interactions. And I think they suffer a little bit from the lack of the social. So Absolutely. It's funny that it's called social media. So yeah.
Well, and the thing is that a lot of times now they're developing social anxiety. They don't even want to be around people because they're so used to being behind their phones and their computers that actually being in social settings gives them anxiety. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people, including some of my family members, some of the kids in my family. It's like, they just seem like they're so, they cannot be without their phones. I was having a conversation with my nieces and nephews the other day. I love cruising, and I want to take the whole family on a cruise next year. And the kids are all freaking out because I told them they wouldn't be able to have Wi-Fi, and they wouldn't be able to be on their tablets and phones. And they're literally telling me, I don't know if I want to go, Titi, because I have to have my phone. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you would give up a vacation for your phone? Like, that's insane to me.
It's dangerous in a lot of ways, because if you look at TikTok, they have those booty dances, and it gets young girls in trouble. It puts some people can be put in danger regardless of whether they want to or not.
If anybody seeing you for the first time, wanting to know more about you and your candidacy, Is there a website or social media they can read up on more? Because you never can get everything you want to know about a person in the hour. So, like, where they can read more about you, or volunteer for your campaign, even volunteer for your campaign.
Yeah, for sure. So our website is judgemedina.com. So they could find out more about me. They can volunteer for the campaign. They can know about any events. I also have Facebook, which is Elect Judge Ada Medina. And then my Instagram is Judge Medina. I have to remember all these things. But yes, definitely I have, my campaign has set up the social media and the website. So it's there if anyone wants to know more, and always, comments, questions. I think that if they send a message through the Facebook or the website, we'll get back to them. Sometimes it'll come directly to me, and I'll get back to them for sure.
Since judges and judicial candidates can't answer a lot of questions on a lot of different topics, I had 2 questions that I asked every one of them that have nothing to do with the campaign or anything, that just to have some fun. So if you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
Wow. Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever thought of that. Superhero. Let me think. Maybe, well, Wonder Woman is really cool. She was popular.
Yes.
Wonder Woman was really popular when I was a kid.
That's right.
And even the new versions. I mean, I wouldn't mind looking like what's her name? Gadot.
Yes.
Right. I wouldn't mind looking like her because man, I could use some personal training.
And if your house was on fire and you could only grab 3 things, what would they be?
Oh, wow. See, now you're going to make me rethink how I put everything together. Because I have like a little portfolio where I have like the important documents, right? So I'd have to grab that. 2 more things. I have to grab my brother and my niece.
Your family.
My family, because they live with me. And then I have a box where I have all my old photo albums from when I was a kid. Right? Isn't that usually what burns? That's usually what you lose, right? All your pictures when you're kids. Because when we were kids, we didn't have them on our phones, right? We had them in real albums. So I would probably grab the bin that has that stuff in it, because I want to keep those memories. I love seeing the pictures of when we were younger as kids.
Absolutely. Last question, Lorraine.
Yes. You're running for election come November, right?
Yes.
Come November. Now you're a Democrat, but in November it can be a Democrat, independent, working families, Republican. Anybody can vote for you.
So you have all the lines, or you just
no. When you vote in a general election, anybody can vote.
Oh, everybody can vote in a general election.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Everyone can vote, and anyone from any party can vote for me. Exactly. I welcome all votes.
When is the general election?
The general election is November 8th this year.
Okay.
Tuesday, November 8th. Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to say that we haven't asked you? Is there any message you want to put out there?
No, just I'm so thankful to be here, and thank you both for interviewing me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the time, and I look forward to meeting more people out there during the campaign trail, and I think that some people think it's intimidating, to see a judge and like, oh, I feel like I'm really easygoing. You can walk up to me, have a conversation. I'm out and about. I really actually live here. I actually shop here. I have my favorite spots that I go to. So if you see me, say hello. Don't be shy. Say hello.
You knocking on doors?
I have been knocking on doors. I've been going around with the people collecting the signatures for my petitions and introducing myself. Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, I get to know people by doing this. This is how I get to know people, and I'm very pleased. These are the things we always talk about, and a lot of things that we fight for, a lot of us activists and advocates, we fight for people who look like us from our community to represent us. And we're not always represented, especially in law enforcement and what we don't understand in the court system. And like I said, I'm proud to see what I'm seeing in Yonkers with the diversity, and that you are the latest addition to that diversity. And hearing you, you from around the way, you know the community, you know what I'm saying? Like that's I can't express how important that is, because for far too long, people that were in charge of making decisions in our life did not understand our neighborhoods, were not from our neighborhoods, did not, you know what I'm saying, didn't even understand our culture and everything. And sometimes people got sentences they shouldn't have got because they didn't understand us. And I believe that that's what we're all fighting for more. And so I'm happy that I had a chance to meet you and represent you. I wish you luck.
Thank you.
I invite you back anytime, but I know judges can't come on to talk about certain things. So
we can talk about anything else. We can talk about anything else.
If you ever feel like you want to come on, and you can always come on. And it's important, AJ, what you just said. There was a call for that. And once again, I just want to say Mayor Spano listened. He heard the people. Finally, somebody listened and paid attention. And I want to give him his kudos.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And I agree with you, AJ. And listen, I look forward to meeting. I've seen the rain. I've met the rain a few times, but I don't think you and I have met in person. So hopefully at some point we'll get to meet in person. And, I would love that. And if you guys want me back on, I will be happy to come on. And we can talk, we can talk about certain things and certain things we can't. But, if there's a way to talk, I can talk about anything in terms of explaining the justice system and, those kinds of things. I just can't give my opinion about, politics and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we could talk about leadership and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would be happy to come back anytime. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.